Good morning. Sorry you missed class today. Before we start class, let's go over the key ingredients that you need to understand for this week. Are you comfortable with the goals that the United States had after World War II? Are you comfortable with the goals the USSR had after World War II? Can you see how they conflict? Are you comfortable with what the Cold War was?
Yes.
Good. Are you comfortable with what independence looked like in India in the late 1940s? And are you comfortable with what happened in Southwest Asia following World War II? If you're comfortable with all those things, you're ready for today. You're ready for Tuesday. Today we're going to look at Europe following World War II. Let's look real quick at what happened in Europe following World War II. Let's look at Russian history. Attacked in the 1800s by Napoleon in France. Attacked by Germany in World War I. And then attacked by Germany again in World War II. Guess what Russia, the Soviet Union, is tired of? They're tired of being attacked. So after the war, they established satellite nations in Eastern Europe. They will not leave Poland, Czechoslovakia, Romania, Bulgaria, Hungary. They will not leave those countries until they know they have a firm ally in them. Winston Churchill referred to them as the Iron Curtain that divided Western Europe from Eastern Europe. There were two countries that decided to become communist but did not want to have a close alliance with the Soviet Union. Those two countries are the countries of Yugoslavia and Albania. Again, Yugoslavia and Albania become communist but do not want to be told what to do by the Soviet Union. So after World War II, the Soviet Union refuses to move its military out of those countries until those countries are securely allies of theirs. What else is happening in Europe following World War II? In 1949, the USSR responds to British, French, and American unification of their German sections, and the Soviet Union creates the country of East Germany. So beginning in 1949, we have the country of West Germany, supported by Great Britain, France, and the United States, and the country of East Germany, supported by the Soviet Union. What type of countries, what type of people are attracted to communism? Poor countries. If you're living in Britain and France, if you're living in Italy, if you're living in West Germany, what are you afraid of as you see the Soviet Union establishing that Iron Curtain? You're afraid of a future attack. So Western Europe and the United States form a military alliance called NATO to protect themselves against future Soviet aggression. If you're the Soviet Union, how do you see what happens in Western Europe and the United States? You see it as a threat. So the Soviet Union responds with forming the Warsaw Pact with its allies. Recall, one of the goals we had in our country was not to allow communism to spread. How do you stop an area from becoming communist? We do two things after World War II. Turkey and Greece fall into civil war. They're poor countries. They're devastated from World War II. So the United States sent money to Turkey and Greece. Besides money, they sent military equipment because there were civil wars going on. Look at where those two countries are located. Wouldn't the Soviet Union love to have control over those two countries? So we gave economic and military aid to the countries of Greece and Turkey to prevent them from becoming communist, and we were successful. We take that idea and we move on to the west of Europe, saying, hey, remember, what's most of Western Europe? Destroyed after World War II. They need money to rebuild their economies. Where are they going to get that money from? Us, in the Marshall Plan in 1948, where we offered $13 billion to any European country as they were rebuilding after World War II. Can you guess the countries that said yes? Can you guess the countries that said no? Yes, you are correct. The Soviet Union said no, thank you, and so did all their allies in red. But all the countries in blue said thank you very much, United States, and took our money and rebuilt. It was a nice way to stop the spread of communism. Did you ever test your mother and your father to see exactly how far they would go on an issue? So did the Soviet Union when it came to Berlin. If you recall, Berlin was in the eastern part of Germany. A small part of Berlin was controlled by the Soviets. A large part of Berlin was controlled by Great Britain, France, and the United States. Just how serious was Great Britain, France, and the United States about protecting the people of West Berlin, keeping it a capitalistic nation? Let's find out. Well, what happens from June of 1948 to May of 1949 is the Soviet Union and East Germany shut down all the transportation routes to West Berlin. Let's see how serious the United States, Great Britain, and France are about keeping West Berlin. How serious was the United States? Leads to what's known as the Berlin Airlift, where Great Britain, France, the United States, yes, mainly the United States, starts flying in every needed supply into the city of West Berlin. Who does this make look bad? You're right. The Soviet Union looks like they're being bullies. And you know how we feel about bullies. We don't like bullies. So for a year this takes place. It also shows our determinants to keep West Berlin free from communism. So the USSR eventually, in May of 1949, removes those blockades. What was the Berlin Wall? By 1958, it was embarrassing what was happening in Berlin. The conditions in East Germany, the conditions in East Berlin were so different than the conditions in West Berlin that many people were moving to West Berlin. That made East Germany, East Berlin, and the Soviet Union look bad. So without any warning in 1958, the Soviet Union built a wall around West Berlin. That's correct, West Berlin, to keep people out of West Berlin, to prevent people from East Germany to move into West Berlin, or to prevent people from East Berlin to move to West Berlin. If you're going to announce you're going to build a wall, what are people going to do? They're going to move before you build the wall. So the Soviet Union built this wall without any warning. If you happen to live in West Berlin but worked in East Berlin, went there in the morning, you did not go back home. How long is this wall going to be in place? Until the 1990s, which we'll study in a couple weeks. Hey, I hope you had a good track meet. I hope you're feeling better if you're sick today, and have a good day. Oh, got homework. Check my website. Check the plan book to make sure you have the homework.